Hello, my name is Keith Hales with InfoSystems, and welcome to Enterprise Tech Spotlight, which is a podcast that we are putting on for mostly focused for business decision makers and business executives and managers who may not be technical, so that they can learn about the technology that their businesses use and maybe the technology they should be using, so that they can make better decisions for their business and be involved in this process of the ongoing path of helping an organization improve their technology position so the business runs better. So joining me today is Robert Goodwin, our Senior Director of Engineering Services, and also a storage expert internally here at InfoSystems. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, and today's episode is sponsored by IBM, and so IBM brings a number of technology technology solutions specific to the cyberspace, cybersecurity. There's antivirus technology, there's SIM technology, there's all kinds of technology, but specifically as it relates to storage, they have some unique things they do there as well.
They do.
But when it comes to storage, I think the most important thing, as we discussed earlier around cybersecurity, is having a good backup.
Absolutely.
So why is that important? So why is having a good backup important from an overall cyber security posture?
Well, so let's take a cyber event, right? Let's say somebody gets not necessarily hacked, but you get ransomware or whatever. Usually the first recourse is, let me just restore my data. If you don't have a good backup or a recent data point, you may lose days, weeks, months worth of data before you can get to a solid recovery point. Businesses usually cannot tolerate that kind of loss. So it's always important to make sure you have a good, verifiable backup day to day.
So if I have a good backup, how long does it take me to restore that data? So even if I have a good backup, what's that process?
That's a trick question.
Yeah, it is.
It is a trick question because it completely depends on the amount of data you have and what mechanisms you're using to recover. If it's tape, it takes longer than if it's disk-based. There's just a myriad of things that to play into the time factor. Generally speaking, however, just to give an answer, you're talking day or days to recover. All right, it's not I'm back up within an hour. If you are completely out and you have to come back from a tape or a disk-based backup, it's days to recover.
So as a business leader who may not be technical, do you think that, or have we experienced that most business leaders that we work with as our customers, do you think most of them understand that? Is that something that's an expectation that they have?
I think it's an expectation they have. I think that it's kind of incumbent upon us as the thought leaders to educate. This is reality. This is what really happens. Everybody talks about the hockey stick and recovery, right? Where the closer to zero recovery time you get, the more money it takes. Mm-hmm. A lot of executives I want zero. I want to be instant until you show them the bill. All right. Now, that was back in the backup day, when cyber really wasn't as big a thing as storage. Now, as that more events are happening and more of it is out in the media and out in the news, they are willing to invest in that because people are seeing and hearing about their peers that it took us a week to recover. It took us 3 days to recover. It took a month to recover. As a business leader, that would get my attention.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think it's incumbent upon the business leaders, like we were talking about in the last episode, to be involved in these conversations and say, what can the business tolerate?
Yes.
How long can we be down? How much lost data can I tolerate? And then work with the IT and the other departments to be sure that the plan aligns with that requirement and that there's effective budget there to support that need as well. So what are the steps in a backup? So if I take a backup, and let's say I take a nightly backup, that's pretty standard for most small and medium businesses to do nightly backups, and some of the bigger ones maybe take it throughout the day. So if I take a nightly backup, am I good? So I get a backup, I put it somewhere on my system, I'm good to go, right?
No.
So what else do I need to do?
So there's a couple other steps that need to happen as the cyber guys, the criminals, if you will, are getting more advanced in what they're doing. They're actually now able to not only get a hold of your data, they're actually able to get a hold of your backup data because it's stored usually within the same system or it's on the same network.
Okay.
Right. Because it makes sense. You got to be on the network to be able to back it up. All right. So if they get a hold of your data and your backups, you're done. There's no recovery. So one of the things you can do is have your backup and then air gap it. All right, air gap means put the data where it's not on a network. A good example of that, it's old school, but I do a backup to tape. I pull the tape out of the machine. That's an air gap. It's physically air gapped, right? Mm-hmm. If you're doing disk space, and what you want to do is take a copy of that data and stick it somewhere else, and then disconnect that from a network. It could be a removable hard drive. It could be a different segment of a network that you can then disconnect. But you want to create a barrier to keep the bad guys from getting in and getting your backup stuff.
We'll be back with the Enterprise Tech Spotlight podcast after we pause to recognize our partner, IBM Storage. With all of the data storage locations companies use today, local PC storage, network storage, cloud storage, app storage, it's hard to manage storage space, backups, and cost. Unless you have the right platform, like IBM Spectrum Storage, which improves the way you manage, protect, and store your data. Your data is your company's lifeblood, whether it's documents, media files, financial records, or email history. And the way you store, manage, and protect it is crucial. Get your company's data storage right by bringing in InfoSystems. We can help you build, manage, and protect your storage with IBM Spectrum Storage. Now back to the podcast.
Okay, so that's a critical point, I think, and we've seen this in customers we've worked with who some of them have that air-gapped backup where the bad guys didn't get to it, and so unfortunately that's not always the case.
Correct.
And so having a strategy that has maybe multiple copies, right? So that offsite could be, or that air gap could be physically in the same building as long as it's disconnected. Yeah. It could be that it is with a managed services provider or with a cloud provider. So it's sent them to Amazon or Azure or Google, whoever, or to IBM's cloud or to anybody's cloud. Could be to our cloud as long as it's off the same network. So if the infected area doesn't spread to the bad area, it's almost like quarantine.
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah. So then what else can they do? Are there ways you can even store it locally in the same environment?
So there is some systems. IBM, the IBM DS8000 specifically allows what's called a safeguard copy. And what it is it's a flash copy of your data, and you can do multiple points in time. So you can be down to minutes, and it quarantines it, to take your term, segments it off inside the storage system, and it's not touchable. Right? You have to have the right credentials and the right keys to get to it. So even if they got a hold of all the other stuff inside that DS8000, that safeguard copy is still there, and you're able to use it to recover.
So there's technology that exists that I'm hearing that can protect a company from different attacks, and backup kind of being that first line of defense, or a reliable way to get the data back. Obviously, the goal is to not get hacked, right? And there's all kinds of podcasts that we're going to be doing, and there's all kinds of products in the marketplace that help prevent that from happening. But I think it's not a question of if you're going to be attacked. I think it's more a question of when and how often and how bad is it going to be. Unfortunately, from our experience. So from a backup and a storage perspective, so I have a backup. I've moved it off site, or I've even saved it locally, but I've protected it from being locally impacted. What are there other things to consider from getting back up and running? I mean, so now that I have this backup, maybe it's in tape, maybe it's with a third-party provider like an InfoSystems or a hyperscaler. What are the things from a storage perspective? Why can't I just fell over to my Azure, or fell over to my AWS, or fell over to InfoSystems? Is that an immediate thing that I should be concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, well, you're not going to get it immediately. That's number one concern is what's your time to fail over, right? Mm-hmm. If you had a DR site, did the DR site get impacted? Because if you're doing any kind of replication, you have a network connectivity there. Did your DR site get impacted? Can you determine what time the event happened? How far did it go? How far did they get? So before everybody wants to just pull the trigger and start throwing data back on the system. You're going to make sure the system's healthy before you start doing that.
So I do want to hit one thing. You said replication. Yeah. So just to clarify the term, so if I have a lot of data over on my production site, so I have my servers in-house, and I'm replicating that data offsite. What does that mean? Am I taking copies and sending it offsite? Help me understand that.
So a replication is almost real time. You're literally copying what's in production into a DR, business continuity environment. And if the file gets deleted here, it gets deleted over here. If it gets infected over here, it gets infected over here. And there's not enough, due to recovery time objectives, there's not enough time for an administrator to stop that before it impacts the other side.
So if I have a replication system that I'm doing DR out of, so I'm replicating to a second site, right? And all my data is being moved over there, I still need a good backup, because
Correct.
if my production site gets hit and I replicate all that bad data over, well, my second site is now
garbage
just as
as well.
bad as well. Huh?
Yeah.
But there's a lot more that we could talk about, but unfortunately we're out of time. So thank you for joining us for the Enterprise Tech Spotlight podcast, and we really hope that you will be able to join us for other podcasts in the future.